Hi, everybody. Today we're meeting Valdon Johnson. He's a professional matchmaker. He's certified with the Global Love Institute, they formerly known as the Matchmaking Institute. Valdon also is the founder of Wrendevu Matchmaking, plus the Modern Dating Solutions. Now check this out, what he believes in. Nothing impacts life more than relationships. His goal and purpose in life is to make this world a better place, a happier place. And you know how he does it? By helping people find happiness, discover love in their lives, and connecting them in social circles. It's just, Walden, I'm about to cry, really, because your mission really impactful. I could use your help in my early days, and I'm sure I would make better decisions and would be probably CEO of Apple by this time. But anyways, it's not only for relationships, it's also for friendship and social interest. So meet Walden. Let's get started. It's going to be kind of like a Christmas story type of interview. We're going to cover past. We're then going to shift to present and focus on future. Let's start with the past then. Professional story. Well, then share how did you decide to become a matchmaker? What ignited this process?
Quite honestly, it was a self-serving situation that I got into about 20 years ago when I was a single guy, and you know, I could have used my services at the time, and I couldn't. It just didn't make sense to me. I thought I was a pretty great guy at the time, and it just didn't make sense that I couldn't find great people to be around, from which my person would come from. So I initially started a company back then, which in hindsight is kind of a pseudo matchmaking company. The problem is I'm a very antisocial and introverted person. So it was really tough to get out there. And I was specifically building my network of men who were like me, professional men who basically had their lives together, right? And but the problem is nobody ever taught me how to pick up dudes. So I'm out in the streets and I would be asking guys if they were single or not. And that didn't go off very well because, so long story short, that kind of failed. So fast forward some years later, and I've always been interested in relationships. I wanted to be married since I was in my early 20s, but I also wanted to do it right. Like I saw marriage as the beginning, not the end. I wanted to do it right and not focus on just finding a relationship, but also focus on being successful in that relationship. So that's kind of explains my mentality in the past. But the thing that made me start at the time that I started, and I think it was around 2017, 18, I had a really close friend of mine who I thought, and it was a woman, and she was like fabulous on all levels. And I just could not figure out why she was not. And I had known her for 10 years, and I just couldn't figure out why she couldn't, we couldn't get a good man for her. So quite honestly, my business was started because of her. The streets, and I told her, I said, I'm gonna help you find your person. And you know, she got married and went on with life, and a business bloomed out of that situation. All right. So now, I'm a matchmaker. And and you guys know that I do one-on-one traditional matchmaking. And I enjoy doing that. But I also want to make a bigger impact. That's the reason why, some of the other things that you said in the introduction, that's the reason why I focus on helping people build better social circles from which their person would come from, right? Because if you curate people um, with common, you educate them on the things that they need to understand about how they interact with men and women. But that's a whole separate side of the business. That's the difference between the modern dating solutions project that you mentioned in the beginning and the rendezvous matchmaking. That's the difference between the two.
amazing. How did you overcome the challenges of being introvert? Obviously, not anymore. You extrovert. You're running two successful companies, involved in 99 other things, community service, etc., etc., etc. It's quite a big leap to overcome this
Yeah.
shyness and become an eagle.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, so one thing about life is that, you might have some of these, I'll call them shortcomings, but you got to learn to get over them, right? I'm still a very interesting. I'm still a very business if you're not a people person. Well, my higher purpose is what motivates me to do what I do, right? Most nights I go to bed thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I trying to help people? Most of the time, it seems like they don't even want to help themselves, right? Why am I doing it? But I wake up the next morning, I have a renewed energy because my 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 goal, my higher purpose really is to make the world a better place. And I feel like the world would be a better place if people were happier. And I feel like people would be happier if they had better relationships, right?
You
So
discovered your
all of
purpose in
these things
life.
kind of work together. And the other thing I'll tell you about that is, you guys know, my background is electrical engineering, right? And when I started in the electrical engineering uh, industry 30 years ago, I was a young kid and I had to get up and do presentations in front of who I thought some of the smartest people on the planet were. Like, electrical engineers are really smart people in my opinion. And you know, bottom line is I had to get over it. You're either going to get over it, do the presentation, learn to talk to people with confidence, that sort of thing, or you got to go back home, right? So you just have to get over it.
That was
It's
brave.
it's interesting that actually in my personal experience in business and building business, introverts are actually very much thoughtful and logical people a lot of times. And if you can add and you can train or you can motivate yourself to actually speak up and everything, that could be a very powerful combination. You can then use this to actually bring up all that stuff that introverts usually have in the background going for them.
Good from both
I
worlds.
remember talking about relationships. I remember my first marriage. I remember like being an extrovert. I would be like talking, and my ex would not be answering me, and I would be kind of like a little bit concerned. What is it? What's going on? Like, why are you not talking? And then she would say something, and it would be like a killer line, right? She would be listening all this time. She would be actually listening to everything I
Yeah.
said, and then not analyzing, but like kind of processing it all. And then she would tell me exactly the right thing without wasting any words. So that's the power, of the introverts. It's the listening and then just analyzing everything instead of just talking and making up on thinking as you talk. That's could lead to unexpected situations. So that's what happens to me all the time.
So we
Yeah.
discovered
Well, at
what
the end of the
drives
day,
you.
I try not to use it as a crutch. That's the bottom line. Is
Oh, definitely.
I don't let it hold me back.
So we discovered what drives you. So you wake up in the morning, and that's what energizes you. You're making connections, people, happy, successful circles yet again. Tell us a little bit more. What's cooking? What's going on right now? What cool techniques are you using to attract people or to build relationships?
Yeah. So I have 3 Facebook singles communities. And I have a community that's off of Facebook. And again, I try to build my communities in a way uh, so, such that I have a rich pool of people to pull from when I want to create an event. And we could talk about SmartMatchApp, right? SmartMatchApp really facilitates. Like, I don't know that a lot of people use it the way I use it in this regard, right? The fact that you can go in and you can search for, I can say, give me all of the, single men between the ages of 35 and 45 that are, 5'5" and above, with whatever salary, has kids, racial background, whatever the case may be. And I can see how many of those guys pop up. And then I can also use SmartMatchApp to go in and see what the compatibility list looks like for that demographic of men, right? And you guys know that feature, we can throw them all in a bucket and then say, send them an event, right? And you can send a whole event to that curated group of people, right? And my goal and a lot of what I'm doing on this level, because you guys know that matchmaking is kind of a high ticket item, right? So when I'm doing the one-on-one traditional matchmaking, that's a whole different story. But again, in an effort to make a bigger impact, I try to work on helping people be around the right people from which that person can come from. Like, that's just one of the overwhelming themes of the work that I do in the community space.
Yeah, it's something that no software, I would say,
I add to
can
that.
achieve. It's something that you need to feel yourself, because you need to know people personally, which I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
Software is just augmentation. It saves time. Yes, it's
Yeah.
made to help you, not to replace you. So
Right.
it's you that makes magic happen. You're a Wizard of Oz.
Well, it would be really tough to do this without SmartMatchApp. I mean, because like I think about a Facebook community, right? I've got one Facebook community that's got close to 1,000 people in it, but they're all over the place. You got people who want serious relationships and people who don't want relationships. You got people, from 5 different age demographics, all different religions, and if you stick them all in a room together, their conversations are a lot of times not that productive, right? And this is one of the things I say to the people is that, if we're trying to teach a cooking class, we can't teach a cooking class to a set of vegans and a set of omnivores, because they do the same. They aren't in line with each other, right? It would be tough to do that. You could do it, but it would take a lot of extra work. So, to say, I try to find the people who actually want relationships and put them amongst people who want relationships. Got no problem with people who just want friends. That's fine. There's lots where people can go just to find friends. But there are very few places where people can go and find themselves among both men and women who are relationship minded. Not necessarily want to get married, but they are living person and right off into the sunset with long-term meaningful relationships, whether that's marriage or not.
Tell about those events. They sound fascinating. What type of events are you organizing? So cooking events, what other?
No, I think cooking events.
So I don't do
example,
cooking events. I was just using that as
that was just
example.
an analogy. Okay,
but I like
too hard.
I like to call them social circle events, right? So, you could take 5 men and 5 women that again are curated around core values and life goals, and you can say, hey, let's go do a dinner, right? Or go to an outing or a hike or something like that. Or you could find 20 women and 20 men and have an event. Like the type of event that, like, sky's the limit, with regard to what you can actually do. But the idea is to help people meet each other. And here's one of the things that I think is very important. We've gotten to an age where the dating culture is just kind of broken, right? So part of what I'm trying to do is find the people who are interested in solutions, because everybody's talking about the problems in dating, but very few people are talking about solutions. That's the reason why I started the Modern Dating Solutions Project, right? So if you get people together that want women who want to learn more about men and men who want to learn more about women, and they respect each other and have a safe space to be, where there's lots of respect and kindness, and like those spaces don't exist. They do not exist, and they're hard to create because it's really hard to find people that are not angry and jaded, and but that's the work that I'm doing. Like it's a tough job, but that's the work that I'm doing.
why do you think mentality this day and age shifted so much if we talk, let's say, early 2000s in dating industry, that people talk about problems, they're not ready, they don't treat it seriously, or why is this happening? Why do you
Man, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people blame it on social media.
Conversation.
And I guess social media is to blame in a lot of ways, but you know, we also have swipe culture. So swipe culture gives a false sense of validation to the women and gives a false sense of belonging to men, right? Men walking around the planet thinking they're the worst guys ever, right? A lot of them. And the women, they think, like, women get lots of validation online. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of woman. They can be big women, small women, tall women, short women, old women, young women. It doesn't matter. They get lots of validation online because average man finds most women attractive. The average mainstream guy finds most women attractive, but the average mainstream woman finds most men unattractive, right? So, and I think that's one of the problems that has come out of social media, because the social media has kind of created a vision of the world for a lot of people that it's just not the same. And I say that because I work with people online and I work with people who don't spend a lot of time online, and they have completely different ways of thinking about life, and they have completely different beliefs about men and women, and the limiting beliefs of the people who don't spend a lot of time online. They don't have as many limiting beliefs as the ones who do spend a lot of time online. So, you know, who knows what the real problem is, but those things definitely contribute to the change in
Well, I mean,
mindset.
everything changes, right, Valdon? Everything changes in
Yeah.
our culture, and we are definitely spending a lot of time on social media in front of the computer. Do you believe that matchmaking is not an online activity? Do you believe in matchmaking on, I don't know, Zoom calls, for example, or on some other virtual type of events? Or you believe that you have to take matchmaking out of virtual realm into the physical realm? What's your take on that, and where do you see more
Yeah.
results?
So my belief is all of the above,
All
right?
of the
Because, you know,
yeah.
I go back to my engineering background that says if there's a problem to be solved, then or if something gets broken, number one, you got to go find the root cause of the brokenness so you can fix the root cause, right? That's one way of thinking. And the other way of thinking is that, you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat, and people are different. There are some people who actually like being online all the time, and there are people who like Zoom calls, right? Some people who just don't have the time to get together, and you know, and there's some people who really hate being online, who hate Zoom calls, and you know, they want to be in person. So part of what I do is I try to meet people where they are. Right now, again, I'm spending a lot of conversation on the community side of speak, because my way of working with matchmaking is completely different. It's completely different, and it's just because my clients on the matchmaking side, they are carefully chosen. Like, I don't accept all clients that come my way, right? Because not all clients are good clients, at least not for my practice, right? And that's fine. I mean, a lot of my work is through word of mouth at this point, and my client list stays full. I have to turn people away all the time. Um, so uh, so a lot of these things, like I said, I'm really talking about the community stuff, but you know, with regard to how you do it, like, everything is an option to me. Like, I don't discount any options. I mean, you know, I come from an age, you know, I celebrated a 55-year-old birthday this week, right? So I tell people that the first half of my life, the first half of my life, there was no cell phones, there was no internet, there was no social media, there was no nothing until I was about 30, right? So
Let me tell you, you're looking
I
good.
have
You're
a
looking
vision
good
of the world
for
and the way it works.
yeah.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. But I have a vision of a world, um, and I can see both sides. right? I can see what the world is like after the internet and cell phones and smartphones and social media. And I remember what it was like before. And you know, sometimes I have to call on some of those skills and techniques I had in my early 30s that, you know, when you actually had to talk to a woman, when you actually had to figure out, you know, how were you going to get her attention without being creepy and, you know, all of that stuff. Totally different dynamic today.
So
Yep, go ahead, Tim.
would you say then you have to do a lot of coaching or mentorship as part of the overall goal? The overall goal of
Yeah, absolutely.
and you do it
Yeah,
yourself
absolutely.
or you do you do
Yeah,
it yourself?
my wife,
Mhm.
I do it myself, and my wife is a relationship coach also,
Okay. Then
a
Family
dating and
business. How
relationship coach.
wonderful.
But yeah. So I talk about when I talk about matchmaking, because let me say a couple things that I think about matchmaking. Number one is I love the industry, right? But there's a problem. The problem is there's a lot of money that you can make in this matchmaking industry. And because of that, it attracts both good and bad, right? And in my opinion, matchmaking just cannot be done without coaching, because most people that come to a matchmaker, they might think we're a bubblegum machine. You can put a quarter inside and a dude pops out the other end. But even if the perfect dude popped out the other end and I brought him to you, most people can't successfully have a relationship with the person because they've got some things that they've got to deal with. So coaching kind of goes hand in hand with matchmaking, in my opinion. And you know, there are some companies out there that call themselves matchmaking companies, but in my opinion, they're more dating services, right? They're more like, hey, let me check these boxes and put these two people together and send them out into the world. Nothing's wrong with that. But I just make a distinction in my mind between that type of activity and actually, because I use assessments, right? They're like, you know, I sign on a client, they do some assessments, we sit down and we go through some things, and because I need to understand on paper at least not only their check boxes, but they're just some things that we can know by some of the assessments that you can take. There are 5 specific assessments that I do for most people. But you got to get to that level, and then there's some level of intuition that goes along with it, and then there's a you know, element of luck, right? And then there's this element of you know, the network that we have as matchmakers, right? Because you know, I'm on a mission to create more matchmakers, because I think my job would be easier if there were more matchmakers in my region, for instance.
Pass the knowledge, pass the skills. That's the
Talking about
purpose.
creating more matchmakers, I know you're very involved in the matchmaking industry. You're part of the Matchmakers Alliance community, and you're also you know, helping other matchmakers with technology, given that you're technology oriented, technology experienced and skilled. I know in the matchmaking industry, being mostly people, not the technology people, you know. So when you say creating more matchmakers, do you mean all of it, like helping them with setting up the whole backend, the technology, the database, like SmartMatchApp type of stuff, you know, front end, back end, and other skills, soft skills like coaching and, you know, matchmaking? Are you covering the whole gamut, the whole area?
Yeah. So I have talked to a lot of new matchmakers who are trying to get started. Because, you know, even though I think SmartMatchApp is the best thing to use, there are a lot of people who can't use it yet because they can't afford it, right? And a lot of times some of the new people coming in, they need help with tech, because, you know, quite honestly, we can go build a free website, and we can go, like, we could set up what we need. There's free databases, matchmaking databases, and we can put custom forms on the free website, and there's sorts of things that we can do. I've done a demo of SmartMatchApp thanks to you guys in the partnership account that you gave me. But I did a demo for a girl who started off with Google Forms, and
Yep.
Google email, and she had
Yep.
this huge database of Google Forms and Google email. And I just happened to have gone through that process with SmartMatchApp, where I could take all of those Google email data and just import it in SmartMatchApp. And she was like, "Oh," like, and I thought that was pretty magical also. But I do try to help because I am technically oriented. I do try to help a little bit and contribute to the matchmaking industry for those people who are trying to get started and struggle with technology. Because one of the questions I get most of all, even with regard to SmartMatchApp, is forms. How do you create forms, right? Matchmakers don't know CSS technology and JavaScript. Like, you're not going to find a matchmaker that knows that sort of thing. And and I created a whole library of SmartMatchApp forms at one point just to have something to show off, to show people what the capabilities are, right, and what it takes to get there. And not only that, even if they had to pay somebody to do it, I would want them to not have to spend as much money, so I can say, hey, here's a list of the identifiers, or this, I can help them, their developers, get in front of a whole lot of things to ultimately cost them less money to implement it into their website. But whatever I can do to support people in the industry, whether they're new matchmakers or old matchmakers, I'm here for it.
It's very interesting, and it's very generous of you, because you are obviously there's competition, right? There is some sort of situations where people don't want to share necessarily clients or databases, protective in certain cases.
But you guys,
Even
you know
tools
how
they
I feel.
use.
Yeah, but this is how I feel about that. Like, that makes no sense to me.
And
Like,
not every matchmaker is like that. There's a lot of matchmakers that I know that are very generous, but then there's also people who are protective.
I think about it like this, because I've had people in the industry kind of slap me on the wrist for helping people beyond what they feel like I should help people, but I just don't think that way. And from a competition standpoint, like, I often analogize matchmaking to be like a car dealership, right?
Interesting.
And let's say, I'm a Toyota guy, so all the Toyota people come to me, right? And even if you do Toyota, but you focus on Nissan or something like that, like, there are too many people in the world for you to have all of the Nissan people and for me to have all of the. If all of the Toyota people came to me, I wouldn't have enough bandwidth to do it. I mean, I just couldn't. I would need an army of 5,000 people.
And it's very,
I,
very wise, I think, to think that way, because, it's the old tale, like about, okay, if there are already a few restaurants on the street, can the street accommodate another new restaurant? And magically, yes, and still everybody increases their business somehow magically every time you add a new restaurant to the street. So is that the same effect? Like, it's that compound effect. The more matchmakers are, the bigger the industry, the more people use matchmaking services, the everybody benefits,
Yeah, and that's really the way I see it, and that's the reason why I say I wish there were more matchmakers I wish there were more Toyota dealerships here in my region, right? So when they have an overflow, they call me. When I have an overflow, I call them. And plus, you guys know that this business is about networks, right? You can't do this business by yourself without networking with other matchmakers. And because I've got a database of people, but I wish lady down the street had a database of people also. So when I get a new client in, if I don't have anybody in my database, I can say, hey, you got anybody in your database, right? That's what we do. We just do it across state lines at this point. But
by the
that's
way,
my motivation for wanting more people here locally where I am.
If you have that motivation, and what you mentioned is super interesting, if I may just mention it and get your opinion actually right here, like sort of in a network call.
Attention.
We're building this, we're considering, and we are going to build this feature in SmartMatch. It's kind of like building a profile page, like intro, but building a profile page that's editable, searchable, and unique link so you can share it with matchmaker. So you can add profiles to that from your SmartMatchApp database and remove profiles from that to like an intro page with
Yeah.
multiple profiles, searchable, editable. You can remove picture, add picture, you can remove certain, hide certain fields. But what it does is that it creates basically a permanent link that you can share with the network of other matchmakers of the clients that are available for them to search. Because every matchmaker is on a custom fields, you know how we operate in
Yeah.
SmartMatch, you know, everyone has their own criteria. You're going with niches, maybe you're a Jewish matchmaker, maybe you're Asian matchmaker, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So there's so many different fields and options to search, not possible to connect it all in one.
Right.
But we're tackling it with everyone will create their own profile page, share it with the world, and you can find who is available in your database for match.
Great idea.
Plus dating network, fireworks.
Yeah, you can share it in the network on the Facebook. You can share it with anyone who you know, colleagues or even clients potentially. I don't know how far it's gonna go, but what do you think of this feature? It would be great to get your feedback.
Yeah, so that sounds pretty cool. I mean, we got to have another conversation to talk more about the details of that, but for sure that sounds great, because you make a great point that, you know, different matchmakers have set up different fields inside of SmartMatchApp, right? So you know, I can't bring her client in and bounce them off the settings or the match preferences in my database, because they just don't match, right? But we found some ways to try to work around that with some people, for those people that are open, because you know, like you mentioned before, a lot of people are very close with their clients and careful, and it makes sense. You got to be careful with your clients.
And also, it's a very private industry. You know, matchmakers, clients of matchmakers don't want to be necessarily, you know, being seen or
super discreet.
Yes, discreet.
Yeah.
What are your plans for the future? Let's talk about new horizons. Do you have anything cooking in your brilliant head?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. So, oh boy,
takes a second.
Secret weapon.
No, I do. So the modern dating solutions is the biggest thing that I've got going on, and that's relatively new. Because I had mentioned to you that I have 4 Facebook groups. One is a men's only group, and the other 3 are singles groups. But I had created a website for each one of those groups, and I had put a SmartMatchApp on each one of those web pages, right?
Like a form?
A SmartMatchApp form. And when a person would sign up on this page, they get tagged with that inside of SmartMatchApp. So I could always go into SmartMatchApp and see how many people joined from this site and how many joined from that site. But that's way too much for me to manage. Like, I've been doing that for over 5 years at this point. Modern dating solutions is saying, hey, let's take all of those websites and make one website, and let's focus on dating solutions. And then out of each one of those groups, I may still have the same link, but it'll probably forward to modern dating solutions. And then we can, you know, because my goal is to work with other matchmakers and dating professionals and behavioral science professionals to help people, to help fix the culture, right? That's because, you know, no one person is going to fix the problem. No one man or woman is going to get out there and have success in an environment that's all messed up. So we got to find people that are interested in working on solutions, building solutions, and being a part of the solutions, right? SmartMatchApp, that's been in my mind with regard to something.
That's another project we talked about. I know.
You
know, regarding sharing and helping and making, you know, solutions with the industry. You know, in Matchmakers Alliance, there is now. I remember Lori. She posted something in the Facebook group there about topics. If anyone wants to have a new topic or you know, speak about any interesting areas. This is, I think, for the next Tuesday, this coming up Tuesday.
Yes.
I think I think that you would have so much to share and to say. If I don't know if you have time even to check the all the announcements they make in the Matchmakers Alliance Facebook group. But I would definitely recommend you, there's gonna be hundreds of matchmakers
Pass your
there.
knowledge. Yeah.
Maybe you can actually
So
share your vision.
I just became a member of the Matchmakers Alliance. I think it was last year.
Yeah.
And right at the time that I became a member, my Facebook page got hacked, right? So I sent everybody a message and I said, don't respond to any messages from me, and kick me out of the matchmaking groups and all of that kind of thing, because I was afraid, because
Yeah.
and I'm saying all that to say that just like yesterday, I was actually looking back through my emails trying to find the Matchmakers Alliance link, and I couldn't find it. So I'm still looking for that, so that I can get back involved with that group. And
Okay, we can
I,
help you out, man. Just off
Yeah.
off the call, after the call, we can
Yeah.
reconnect you, because I think you have so much to share.
Absolutely.
Your generosity is impressive, really, and I think that you have the spirit that it would be absolutely contagious. I would love to help you to reconnect with everyone there. They're wonderful people. A lot of them are very, very people oriented, very much
Yep.
bright and
Well,
energetic.
I know most of them, because we go to the Matchmakers Conference in New York every year, and I've gone every year for at least the last 5 or 6 years. Right. So I've met most of the people that are in the alliance. I know Maria and
She's
I
a
can't
big
think of the other
heart.
lady. Yeah, yeah. So I know more, and every time I go to the conference, people are asking, "Hey, are you going to be at the alliance this year?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not a member of the alliance," until I became a member of the alliance last year. But I hadn't participated a whole lot because I had
And
to get over
technology
that.
is becoming a big part of it. And they absolutely would love to get advice on how to do certain things, how to work. And you have so much experience in this. I think
Yeah.
I definitely would like to see you like becoming more active there, man. Like speaking.
Yeah, and I would love to.
By the
I
way,
would love to, because
uh-huh.
I was just gonna say, matchmakers don't want to deal with technology. Like they want to spend their time doing matchmaking, right?
Yeah.
And I want to help with that, because I know it's frustrating when you feel like you're spending so much energy on technology, and you really rather be, doing
Talking
the work.
about technology, Valdon, actually, here's an interesting question. If we still have time, Art, I think we have very little time, but maybe next, I would love to do a follow-up interview,
Sure, sure.
There's so much to talk about. We only have one something minute left. A couple of more questions I would ask in the next interview about how you see the artificial intelligence playing a role in the matchmaking, generally speaking. Do you think it's a plus or a minus? It's a big topic to unpack. How about we do two parts?
I
We can,
was just about
Yeah,
to say, why scheduling another? I'm just gonna send another link and we'll do a second part. I have two really
I'm all
important
about it.
questions.
Yeah,
today,
I'm all for it.
like we
Sure, if
just,
you guys want to.
Like right now.
Yeah,
and we will
yeah.
publish them in certain time period. Okay, let's go for it. There's
Okay.
more questions to
Okay.
unpack. Let's go for it.
Part
All
one
right.
completed. Part two coming soon.
All right.
Oh.
And now part two.
Part
Hi,
two, yes.
Volkan.
Hi,
Let
Valdon.
me ask questions. I have two really important questions. I'm curious for myself, perhaps for my friends. What are the most important criteria that you're looking at when accepting people to your database, when you're interviewing them? Because it's extremely exclusive, selective. So what are those things?
So my niche is, I like to call it, working class professionals. And they're basically people that fit in my category, with my background as an electrical engineer. And you know, interesting point. I can think of two guys that I've worked with for, it's been 25 years I've worked with them. Single guys, great guys. I know they make a bunch of money. Like, I know they make a bunch of money. And they're great guys. right? They're very generous guys. They're kind, you know, and I don't really talk about matchmaking when I'm over there in that space. But I also spent, you know, I have to find men, right? Here, I don't mean to get off the track a little bit. This is still about the same thing, but I have to try to find men. And where do I find men? I go to engineering meetups. I go to technology meetups. I just stopped my membership at one professional business club here because a new space opened up called Car Space. I was trying not to air, uh, but you know, and it's all about cars and the things that men like, and a lot of men show up over there, right? So I go into these spaces to try to meet men. My criteria, I'm very concerned about whether you are interested in helping me do a good job for you, right? Because the number of people that I run into when I say, hey, let's do some coaching, and they say, no, I don't need any coaching. Generally, I know that's not a client for me, because I know that most people, like, I think about, if you wanted to get good at something, like when I wanted to be good at tennis, I took tennis lessons. When I wanted to be good at golf, I went and took golf lessons. When I bought a motorcycle, I went and took motorcycle lessons because I didn't want to kill myself, right? And most people think they know how to do relationships, even though they've never read a book before. They never read a book, never been to a seminar, never coached, never did anything. And it just baffles my mind. It even baffles my mind that people still choose to get married these days. I'm all for marriage. I am 100% for marriage. But the problem I have with marriage is that it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And it'll have the biggest impact on your life, but it's the place where people spend the least amount of energy and the least amount of resources to be successful at it. Everybody wants to find it, but they don't want to prepare for how to be successful after you find it, right? So my criteria number one is, do you even want to do this? Like, if you're not, like I like the assessments that I talked to you about, the people have to take the assessments before they even sign a contract with, right? Because I won't even sign a contract if you're not willing to do the assessments. Like that's a clear indication to me that like I'm not gonna have it's gonna be tough for me to be successful for you. Because keep this in mind, guys, I love this business, but I try my best to make sure that it is not a business that stresses me out, right? Because I got a whole lot of other things going on in life, and I really want to do this, right? And I really enjoy helping people, and I really do want to make the world a better place. But you got to want it too. If you don't want it yourself, like, no amount of money you give me is going to make it's only going to put me in a bad position, because now I got all your money and you're expecting results from me, and I can't give you results because you won't do what you need to do. You know what I mean?
This
You
is
know, so it's,
priceless. This
yeah,
shows extreme care that you have big heart, and they gotta accept your mentorship, which
yeah.
was my second question about mentorship. How long on average does it take to mentor a person so they will be ready to meet people, to meet ladies, to
Yeah.
build relationships?
It's not that answer to that one is all over the place. Like, people ask me how much does it cost for matchmaking, right? And I normally respond to that by saying, how much does it cost to build a house, right? And I let them think about how much it costs to build a house, right? Obviously, it depends on where the house is, depends on what kind of house it is, depends on how many rooms it is, it depends on a lot of things, right? So when somebody comes to me, you know, with something like that, or even to your question about mentoring, there are some people who've read books, right? There's some people who are just naturally good at relationships. There's some people that are just, but there's a whole spectrum, right? There are people who've never picked up a book and never listened to anybody about relationships, and you know, and they've never had good relationships modeled before them. Like, they have just no chance of being successful at a relationship without learning something. If that person became a client, they're going to take a whole lot more time and effort and resources than this person over here, who's read some books, who's been in some relationships, who've learned some lessons and therapied themselves off the wall. And, like, you see what I'm saying? So it's really tough to say it takes 6 weeks to help a person because, you know, you got personalities you got to deal with, you got past traumas, and you got, it's just so much, so
Whole
much.
buffet.
But I do spend a lot of time to make sure I assess them, to make sure I'm a good fit for them, right?
Do you ever accept people, let's say a person just never, they've been in relationships, but they really a mess, but they really accept your mentorship, but you see that it's going to be extremely hard. Will you accept this person?
I will say yes. The caveat is this, because I actually have a client right now that came from, you know, one of my wife's coaching clients, and in my mind he fits that bill. But the thing about him is that he wants to find a relationship, and he wants help, right? And anything you ask him to do, he's like, tell me what time. And for the person who really wants help, I will bend over backwards for them to help them. I will bend over backwards for them. So the answer to that question is absolutely yes. If, you know, if it's not pushing a rope, like if
Legend.
they want
You
to come
are a
along,
legend. That's it.
It's interesting.
if they want to come on the journey.
It's basically global. I think it's. I've been doing coaching, for example, not matchmaking, but coaching for business, and it's similar in the sense that, do you really want it, right? I mean, and sometimes people don't have the exact amount of money or the background, or like you said, they haven't read the book or they haven't done this or that, the all over the place. But the thing is, you are not, you don't, the criteria is not any of that. Your criteria is, do you really want it? Are you willing to do
Yeah.
work? Are you willing to do the
Yeah.
work? Do you really want genuinely the result? The genuine result.
Yeah.
Powerful.
And
Yeah.
you know, I try not to take tough customers, tough clients. But if it's a tough client that I feel like really wants it, and because, you know, this is my perspective, guys. When I was 41 years old, when I turned 41 years old, I was a single guy, and I didn't have a prospect in sight, nowhere in sight, right? And I always for years was thinking, you know, does that thing really exist? That thing that people say soulmate and, you know, person live like the right person, does that really exist? Right? That's where I was at age 41. I turned 41 March 25th, 2010. If we fast forward to September, I went on the first date with my now wife in September 2010. When we were married 68 days later.
Wow.
And here it is. Now, the reason I'm saying, because I don't recommend that. I don't recommend nobody get married in 68 days. But, you know, the reason I say that is because, you know, I want people to continue to have hope, because at age 41, I was like, hey, we're going to ride this thing, you know, solo for the rest of my life. And that's fine. But by age 42, I was married. Like, who would have ever thought I'd have done all
Well,
of that in 1 year? So,
What was the
you
switch
know,
though? Like what switched?
yeah, and the main thing I wanted to take away from that story is that, you know, I look at our relationship. So we're 13 years in at this point, right? And and I just love my relationship with my wife, like love it. I mean, I could go on and talk about all the reasons why, but man, I wish I could help people find what I have and help them understand how to get to where we are, because you don't really get a relationship like this unless you're really willing to build a relation. Like, these types of relationships are built, they aren't found. You know what I mean? And
I
people
would 100,000% agree with you on that one. Being in, marriage before and a marriage
yeah,
now, I would agree with you. I that makes me emotional because you get into a relationship, you think you're owed something, you're
mhm,
done. That relationship is finished. It's done
yeah,
before it even started.
yeah,
You are getting in a relationship where you are in for work, self-improvement for
mhm,
life. That relationship has potential. No
yeah,
guarantees, No guarantees, but it has potential. It has a potential for a lifetime, because so much depth that can be explored, so much fun can be had in a good relationship. And as long as two people both get
Yeah.
into that with that perspective, mind, like nobody owes anything to anybody. In fact, the job that you have as a partner in a relationship, or a husband or a wife in a relationship, is to make the other person
Yeah.
happier. If both people have the same goal, imagine how much
And that's a competition now.
it's a
That is
competition
that
to
is
make each other happier. What? Done.
Yeah. And I do think I could talk about, because this is a project that she and I are working on together. Like, we're gonna get into the marriage space later, because people just have the
Oh, oh my God.
wrong expectations about marriage. And and people come with different backgrounds, and people, one of the things that I found with marriage, and I know we probably should get off marriage since we're still in matchmaking, but one of the things that I found is that you know, people have to really understand that their marriage is their marriage, and they can't model their marriage off of what they see on TV or what they see in somebody else's marriage or something like that. You can get influence from those places, but you have to learn how to know what it is going to take for you and your person to be together and be happy for the rest of your life. And you got to really learn how to shut the other noise off. But these are conversations that have to be had, because this is not a one size fits all type of situation. Just like matchmaking, none of this is one size fits all. Just like trying to fix the dating culture, there's not a one solution for all of this. What we got to do is we got to open up more conversations about it and talk more about the solutions and less focus on the problems.
Are you by any chance, did you just say that you are expanding into the marriage, like
Mhm.
counseling of any sort?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Because I think it's just such an organic way and an organic extension to matchmaking business. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know how many matchmakers actually say that or do that, but counseling couples,
yeah.
because one thing is getting a a partner and getting a marriage, a relationship. Another one is, guess
Keep
what? Keeping it, right?
forging it.
Yeah,
So
that's my focus. I want people to focus more on how to be successful in a relationship, not just find a relationship. And
so
that's
this is
just
like
where I think a lot of people are
passing
confused.
the moment of the
Yeah,
actual matching, and then working
yeah,
on it. And
yeah,
how's that area
absolutely.
going for you? I would love to. I mean,
Well,
we're gonna share this with the entire community of all the matchmakers that work with us. So please share, like, your perspective on that. Like, what's the plan there? What's the vision there?
so we're still building the plan and the vision around that. That's the reason why I say that's something that we're getting ready to work on. We hadn't quite gone down that path just yet. But my mentor is a marriage counselor. He's actually a pastor at a church, and he's a marriage and he counsels a lot of single people, but he also does marriage as well. So I have people like that in my circle, and my goal in that space is really just to change the mindset of people going into marriage and help them with better expectations and help them understand the importance of preparing before you get into marriage. Because I know so many divorced people who say they got divorced because they learned this about themselves and they learned that about themselves. I'm like, you could have learned that before you got married, right? But nobody wants to do any of this work beforehand. And I should stop saying nobody wants to do that work. There are people who actually absolutely want to do that work before, but the narrative has to change. Like, the conversations about marriage have to change, and I really want to promote the idea of people preparing for it, right? Because, like I said, tennis, golf, motorcycles, whatever it is you want to get good at, most people are willing to go spend some money on a cooking lesson or whatever they're interested in. And it just baffles my mind the number of people that are like, no, I'm not going to pay somebody to help me do a relationship like that.
You
That's
know, it's an important actually thing to do. from my personal relationship, just to share with anyone watching, you know, it's fun when you're in a dating mode, you know,
Yep.
you're excited, you know, it's new, it's you know, sexy, if you wish. Everything is you know, under in a different angle, you know. But yeah, once you get into a real serious relationship, there are responsibilities, there are almost business like um commitments, you know. It is in a many ways a good solid partnership. In a many ways looks like business to me, seriously. And
Yeah.
I hope I'm not offending anybody. What?
No.
Romantic, yeah. But if you can successfully keep those two components in a relationship, which is the business like, you know, dealing with the budget, not, you know, not frustrating each other with those kind of things, planning it out, like removing all those what's a good business, right? When everybody knows what they're doing, what to expect, the budget is there, we know what to do, everybody has a role, everything is clear. That's the business like part of it. And then the other
But
part of it is you cannot lose romantic feeling. You just can't. If you do, then it's becoming boring. Then obviously relationship is going to probably not last, because you know, you want to have a playful you want to have a playful moments, you want to be a child, you want to be romantic, you want to be dating. So you know, if you think about it, a relationship like that, if you're going to go into that marriage counseling,
Mhm.
that's probably something to sort of remind, coach couples, don't lose that, don't lose
Fall
that.
in love every single morning with one another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like play,
So so
go
so
out,
this
go
listen,
out,
guys.
you know.
So I hear what you're saying. This is what I'll say about that. Is number one, a lot of what you said boils down to people who have common core values and life goals. If you and I have common core values and life goals, and it's not going to be a heavy lift for us to have the conversation around finances and how we want to manage things and that sort of thing. I've talked to people who were totally opposed to the idea of thinking about their marriage as a business or a
Okay.
corporation. Like I've met people who are absolutely against that idea. Thankfully, I'm married to a woman who loves that idea. As a matter of fact, she loves it so much, she bugs me. Hey, we're going to have our sit down meeting, you know, on this date. She'll put it in the calendar. Every year we have these goal setting type of thing. Like we do the same, we do those things. But I brought this up to say, the thing you have to be careful about when you start telling people what they should do with regard to being married is you can't really tell them what they should do. And the reason being is because people are built differently and they have different backgrounds. So what you do is you learn how to assess what type of person they are, and you give them tools and perspectives to help them make the right decisions to move forward. I agree with you 100%. You know, I always wanted to be married to a person that I wanted to get up every day and say to myself, what can I do to make her happy today? Right? Um, and I just got lucky and found somebody who feels the exact same way. Now, I said we've been married for 13 years. There were years of our marriage that were terrible, like just horrible. But the thing that held us together is that I know that we had the same core values and life goals, right? And that is really tough. And if you've got the same core value and life goals, you can work through all of that other stuff. Like one of our core values is working through stuff, right? I don't ever want to get divorced. Divorce destroys people, and finances and enterprises and estates. Like it's just so much damage that happens from divorce. So make a good decision up front on who you're gonna marry, and then stick to it. Because at the end of the day, love is a decision. It's not a feeling. Because you won't feel
Unfortunately, it's not
love
so
all the
easy,
time.
you know. If it's easier said than done, it's like business, you know. How
Yeah.
many businesses do you have to start and fail, or how many, you know, jobs you have to try before you know what you
Yep.
really like? There's no magic bullet, but working with professional helps you, I think, to maybe fail faster or realize something
Mhm.
faster, just to get through this puzzle,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. or maybe, prevent yourself if you already failed enough, prevent yourself from doing it again and again and moving
Yeah,
forward.
and I take the approach of trying to learn from other people's mistakes, right? Because it's it wasn't easy to get to age 41 years old and not be married and not have a bunch of kids. Like that wasn't easy, right? Because life is life, and men are men and women are women. Like that just wasn't easy. But I saw examples of what I didn't want in a marriage, and I saw examples of people getting divorced, and I saw examples of a lot of stuff that in my mind said, okay, how can I avoid that situation? How can I avoid being like that? And in my coaching business, I do spend a lot of energy trying not to tell people what to do. What I try to do is I try to help people have better perspectives and give them tools of communication and interaction that will help them make better decisions, find better people, and know if those people are right for them. Like those types of things. Like the whole prescription thing is dangerous in a lot of ways because the same prescription does not work for everybody. There's some common core things that relationships have to have. Like they've got to have some level of love and respect, and they can't have contempt and all of that kind of stuff in it. Those are common, but a lot of the other things, you got to feel people out and meet them where they are.
There's a lot that goes into your job, and coaching and mentoring and matching people and increasing their chances of success in their relationship. If you don't mind, let me kind of softly go from here. So this work of a matchmaker is very much in one-on-one personal, very personalized, like you said, high scale, high level, clients. However, how do you actually see this changing going forward? Do you think matchmaking is an industry that will be affected by artificial intelligence, by technology, by virtual reality? I don't know what to even say. There's so much. There's Google glasses or whatever you call them, the AI thing.
Apple helmet.
Do you think that how do you think matchmaking is going to be affected by all this technology? Is this industry gonna is it gonna grow? Is it gonna shrink? Is it going to change, evolve?
Yeah. So I definitely think it's going to change. I think it's going to grow. I think there's going to be a segment of society that's going to continue to degrade down the path of technology. And when I say degrade down the path of technology, what I mean by that is we are humans, and we were built to have connection, whether it's connection with our brothers or sisters or girlfriends or boyfriends, mothers or fathers, whatever it is, we are built to have connections. But there's a trajectory of technology that is pulling people away from people, right? Social media is just the beginning of that, right? But some of these AI real life doll women walking around, like that's going to be a big deal.
It's already
Moving
happening.
forward.
There are already websites.
Yeah, exactly. So my point is, there's going to be that segment of society, and then there's going to be a segment of society who, because modern dating solutions is going to be big by then, and the people who want to meet actual people and be in the presence of actual people, those people are going to migrate in the other direction. And one of the reasons why I think matchmaking is going to be more of a necessity moving forward is because society is just so different, right? And I'll give you an example. I asked ChatGPT to give me 100 different sexual orientations, and it gave me 100 different sexual orientations.
It actually
I asked
did.
it to give me one. It actually did, and I read all of them, and I couldn't make sense of a lot of them, but it boggles my mind that was the case. I asked it to give me 100 genders, and it gave me 100 different genders, and I'm like, so listen, I'm not against any of the genders and whatever people want to do in their lives. The only point I'm making is that it's harder and harder for people to just find other people that want to be in relationships the type of relationship that they want to be in, whatever that is,
And
right?
so
Because there's just so
matchmaking
many
can help,
variations.
and so matchmaking can help bridge
Yeah.
that up for that.
In my mind, matchmaking is the only way you're gonna do it, because you can't walk out in the street and find somebody, because it's just too much. It's just too much.
So you
I
think,
think matchmaking is going to grow.
and you think
You know,
artificial intelligence is not gonna replace matchmaking?
no, I absolutely don't. I think artificial intelligence is going to enhance our ability to do our jobs.
I was
I
just about to
absolutely
say
believe that,
yes.
but I don't think it's going to. No, I absolutely don't think it's going to replace matchmakers in any kind of way.
You just learn
No.
to work with artificial intelligence to improve
Yeah.
your productivity, maybe, right?
Yeah.
But
Absolutely,
the
because
human,
I do think,
yeah.
yeah, I do think it's going to help. But
The thing is, if how you position matchmaking, and I think this is really valuable, is if big part of it, I don't know percentage wise, but if big part of matchmaking is actually preparing someone for dating, for relationship, to find the right one and to keep the right one, then yeah, it's very human touch, it's very personalized, it's very bespoke, if you wish, like you have to one like it's a
So
very
there's one thing I wanted to say before we finish this interview, either in the first part or the second one. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. So it's important for people to know that matchmaking industry is not a regulated industry, right? It's not regulated by anybody, the government or anything like that. And because of that, I mean, there's some advantages to that and there's some disadvantages to that. But because of that, there are no rules in matchmaking, right? Jim can wake up tomorrow and decide he wants to be a matchmaker, and he can do it any kind of way he wants. He can charge any amount of money he wants, right? And and there are people who've come into the industry and have hurt people by this, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I hear a lot of negative press around about matchmaking. And I understand once I hear their stories and they point out some of these companies that they work with, I totally get it. I totally understand it. But that's another part of my mission, is to, if somebody's interested in matchmaking, I want to help them understand how to find a good matchmaker, where to go to find a good matchmaker, how to vet a matchmaker to see if it's the right one for you, right? Because it's a lot of resources that can be involved and people can get hurt. And for the people that are out there, trying to do good things in the world, like we want a better environment for us also, right? Because we don't want a bad reputation, like matchmaking is a ripoff. Like I hear that all the time. And I understand the people that say that. I totally understand those people and their stories. So I don't discount it or minimize it. But yeah, it's an unregulated industry, and and the rules are all over the place. And plug for the Global Love Institute, right? Um, I think the idea that they set forth a certification, and people have different opinions about the certification and how valuable it is or not valuable it is. The one thing I think about the certification is that it's a clear indication that somebody who chooses to be in this industry decided to put some skin in the game, right? And I think that makes a real big difference. And that's not to say that there are people who don't have a certification that are not doing good work, because that's totally not the case. A ton of great matchmakers out there without certifications, but because so many new people are coming into the industry, the industry, they need to prove themselves in some kind of way,
yeah.
right? Um, I don't know. I got a lot of thoughts around that sort of thing, but
It's a lot about actually, if you think about matchmaking here in United States or Canada or UK, for example, yeah, we're talking about regulation and we're talking about a profession, but matchmaking is a thousands of years history. For example, in cultures like Indian culture or Jewish culture or Muslim culture, it is not a profession.
right.
it's
Right.
literally a blessing, and it is really like a responsibility,
Mhm.
to and a blessing if you match someone, you know.
Right.
So it's there's no regulation there. The
Yeah.
only regulation is you and the God, I suppose, and you
Yep.
and your own, you know. So, um, yeah, it is an interesting point about regulation and about whether certification makes a good matchmaker or not. I do love your point about skin in the game. It is a valid point. If you are investing money to complete certification, you're serious about it,
Yeah.
that adds up. You know, it adds, I guess, certain value to it. You know, like
Absolutely. It sends a message. I mean, because I've talked to new matchmakers who so I'm still in the certification group, right? So new matchmakers pop up in there, and sometimes I'll reach out to them and I'll ask them, hey, is there anything I can do to help you get going? You know, type of thing. And I'm way more inclined to help those than some random person that popped up and said, hey, I want to be a matchmaker. Can you help me? I'll have a conversation with them, right? But if they feel like they just came up with this idea and they want to do it, then I probably won't spend a whole lot of energy
yeah.
with them, because this is not an easy thing to do. Matchmaking is not easy at
Oh no,
all.
it's a lot of work. All of our clients, which I love every single one of our clients, but they all have one thing in similar. Matchmaking is hard work.
Yeah,
Every single one, we talk about SmartMatchApp. Oh, you know, database. That's nothing. Like the amount of work and what kind of clients, sometimes difficult clients they have, and they are requiring so much work, and then arguing about money, and
yeah, yeah,
um, it's like that's why I really, really appreciate when you're saying, you know, a client who really wants it will work on himself or on herself, and will, increase the chances so much. It's probably the same thing to say, like, if you think matchmaker owes you something,
yeah,
he owes you to create a marriage for you, but not you yourself.
yeah,
Matchmaker, now I'm outsourcing it to you, dear matchmaker. You're supposed to get me married or get me a relationship. Oh, you didn't. Oh, that's your fault. No. So I guess it's a two-way street, right? And I hear the stories a lot, and I think um you have to be mature. You have to be mature. You have to really realize that you are ready for it before you even consider working with a serious matchmaker. I think that's it. You know, and
yeah.
it's not new. And you know, just to kind of finish up our conversation, before we go to part three, I think we'll be able to fit that one in part two. Valdon, I appreciate you jumping on the call with our other client, Men Living, and you know
Yeah.
there is a new almost, and I start talking about it in the social media. There's a whole new direction emerging for
Mhm.
us. We are amazed at this. So matchmaking as a concept, as a notion, is kind of clearly for me becoming kind of like transcendent. It's like
Mhm.
transcending throughout all the industries, all the types of activities, going from professional network to professional networking network to social to peer support,
Yeah.
and you know, all over the place. Like literally, you can have a matchmaking business or a matchmaking hobby, if you wish, pretty much in any walk of life, any industry. So um, the question is coming in a second, but I appreciate you jumping on that call with Men Living and helping our client with your expertise. And it's interesting because a lot of our clients come to us from the non-dating industry saying we want something like dating, but for
Mhm.
for our community. And so it's exciting to see you're getting involved in these cases. I would like to see like more of our clients to reach out to you from other communities to learn the secrets, if you wish, or the techniques of matchmaking, and exchange this information, because I think there's so much to do in professional matchmaking, in
Yeah.
peer support matchmaking, in mentorship matchmaking. There's so much to do there. So I would like to ask you, like, your interest in this, and how do you see your evolution in terms of the like social or professional matchmaking? Any plans in that area, or do you think your work is cut out for you just in there's so
Are you
much
asking? Are you asking if I have plans around the area of supporting other matchmakers?
Yeah, supporting the non-dating cases,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
or using matchmaking in the non-dating for the
Yeah,
non-dating
yeah,
purposes.
yeah. So, so Men Living. I don't know if I told you this, but I came across them because I saw the interview that you had done with Sean Emerson.
Yeah.
That's how I even learned about Men Living. It just so happened that I've been looking for a community as a man to try to join, because I want to make more male friendships myself, right? And that's kind of how I got connected with those guys. And to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I my heart is mostly going to be in the matchmaking space. But like I told the guys over at Men Living, they asked me a question like, what do I think is most important about what they do? And I understand that anybody that is doing work to help people find each other and come together, right? Anybody that's doing that type of work, I'm all about trying to help you do that. And that's why I jumped in with both feet with those guys. Because it's like I'm really afraid of the future if people continue to diverge away from people, right? And that's just what we have in front of us. And I know that there are people that are hungry to have connection with real people, but it's harder and harder, because it's tougher and tougher to just go outside and talk to somebody, because that's becoming more and more abnormal to just say something to a strange person. You know what I mean? And
We do this even inside of our company on our internal meetings all the time. We actually spend extra amount of time just to relate
yeah,
and to help each other. I have this issue, I have this issue. So communities are designed for this. And Men Living, for example, they're connecting men for friendships, for social relationships, for peer support, literally peer support, mentorship, and coaching. One other organization you should check out is, have you seen the interview with Dennis Schultz at the Blacks in Technology? Just like
No.
they have 80 plus they have like 80 plus thousand members all across the world. If you listen to that interview, they're
I did
helping,
listen to that interview. I do remember that. Yep.
and there are some amazing use cases there. They're literally helping young and upcoming, professionals to
Professionals.
find jobs and to literally help them provide for their family. Again, all they want, all there is there's just a desire to do this, and there's a community right there who's helping it. And so it's, and matchmaking is a big part of it. So that's why I'm asking your opinion. Do you think? I guess another question. Do you think you want to get involved, and can we send you to some of our clients to help them out, maybe with technology or methodology in general? Do you have even any time for this? But I would love to refer you.
So, um, do I have time for it? No. Would I like to do it? Yeah. So,
Case by case.
listen, if you think of somebody, if you can think of somebody that you want to connect me with, I'm happy to connect with just about anybody and everybody, right? I do have a problem overextending myself. I do it all the time because I want to help everybody. I know I can't help everybody, but I want to help everybody. And I love the technology that you guys have, and I think it's going to go way beyond matchmaking. It's already going way beyond matchmaking, and I think the capabilities are continuing to grow. And I use it in some ways, like the type. I've got a handful of different types, right? And that feature has helped me out so much to be able to ask this set of questions to that type of member, and this set of questions to that type of member. Like I even have a contact type, because I'm starting to put all my contacts in there, also, right? Because it, it just serves so many purposes across the board. I could go into that stuff.
We're
And
actually
I've
going to
still got
remove,
lots to learn about SmartMatchApp myself.
and that's what I love about
You say
talking
you're
to you.
gonna remove it?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I think there's a lag a little bit with the video.
I
So.
thought you said, did you say you were going to remove types?
No. We are going to check
Oh,
this out, and that's why
okay.
I love what I was saying is I love to get your feedback. I love to have you on a call like this. We're gonna remove the default fields. You know how we have like now like default photo,
Yep.
default first name,
First
last
name,
name.
last address. Yeah.
Default, these fields are default. It's because built for dating originally, so the photo is but we're gonna remove the default fields. All of the fields will be custom, so you can literally have a database if you don't need visual, if you just need certain type of fields and you don't need first name or last name or any of those fields like that are default, like email or phone number. So you can literally completely customize your database without any even hints of whether it could be dating or even can be professional networking or any even simple database solution. Because
Right.
we find that people sometimes just looking for that, you'll be surprised how many of our clients are using us mainly just for the database, just to have a database.
Yep.
Not because they don't need the matchmaking thousands of different features, but because they only have time and capacity just to create a database, a form, store the clients somewhere, search for them, and that's already a good start, a big step up from the Excel sheet. But then from there, there's all kinds of other features they can learn. One of our challenges is somehow figuring a way to help our clients to learn the features. We're trying to figure out in our user interface how to put video training right in the user interface that they pop up in front of you when you are in a certain section. So it's like, boom, you're in the client section. Here's how to use client section. You're in the settings section. Boom, video pops up. Here's how to use settings. Like we're trying to figure out how to communicate all the features we have. That's a
Ability to have.
challenge. It's a big
Yeah.
challenge for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that challenge. Because
I want to ask a question, which pretty
go
much
ahead.
going to be the last. How can our viewers reach out to you to collaborate? What's the best way? The email, the phone, the website?
Yep. So ValdonJohnson.com, that's my personal website, and it has links to all of my other projects. The Wrendevu matchmaking, it has a link to that. And modern dating solutions. My email address is valdonj@wrendevu.com. That's spelled WRENDEVU. And yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm not that active on Instagram, but Valdon Johnson is a unique enough name. If you Google it, you're probably just going to get me. There are a couple other guys
I
out there.
highly recommend everyone who is watching this interview, matchmakers or clients, potential clients.
Yes.
I highly recommend. I know Valdon for many years already. I lost account how many years already because it feels like it's been such a long time.
Eternity. Yeah.
And I highly recommend to connect and to collaborate and to make this world a better place together. It's more fun to do it together as a community. So yeah, absolutely, highly recommend it. And Valdon, thank you so much for being generous with your time today. I know how busy you are. It's not easy to just grab you and
Yeah.
interview
I've
you.
been looking forward to it, so I appreciate you guys having me today.
Thank you so much. So
We'll have another part next time, most likely in May.
I would not be surprised. Maybe we pick a topic and just dive into, because there's so many, we have
Surgically.
so many openings. We can probably dive into any topics like very, very, very specifically and narrowly.
I'm here for it. Whatever you guys need.
Perfect. All right, so let's pause it. I think I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I didn't expect it's gonna go so smooth and we cover
Bye.
variety of topics. So yeah, I love it.